Good evening, fans. Tim Kitzrow here, the voice of NBA Jam, and you're listening to the Game Dev Breakdown Podcast, brought to you by CodeWritePlay.com. Whoa, boom shakalaka!
My mom gave birth in 1985. I was bluer than a Pac-Man ghost, barely alive. In the Cold War, my only blanket was Tetris. I played Rampart with Reagan, rampaged the world for breakfast. The laundromat was my sanctuary, the arcade was my church. I thought I was
Hey everybody, Todd Mitchell here. Welcome back to Game Dev Breakdown. It is August 24th, and I never lead off with the date, but it's going to come up here because yesterday was an anniversary of sorts. I will tell you the story. I'll tell you what happened a year ago yesterday, and then I'm never going to talk about the topic again. And the topic is the hit game Balatro. And I will explain my weird connection to that and why I'm not going to discuss it anymore and how you can help keep me honest about that. It's a frustrating story, but there's a silver lining. There's an upside. So to explain this, I have to take you back, not just back a year, but back all the way to the beginning of the podcast when I was just finishing work on my first indie game, Letter Taps, my first shipped indie game, I should say. I've worked on a lot of different game projects before, but that was my first mobile, multi-platform, multi-app store game that it was a lot of fun. I started the project based on something I noticed with my son, who was very young at the time. I noticed that he could sort of follow very simple UI elements on my phone while I was, parenting for the first time and checking, apps and emails and stuff. If there was a well-defined button or UI element on the screen, my son could figure it out at like 1-2 years old, very early. So I thought, this is kind of a golden opportunity to put something together to help teach my kid. I could help him learn letters, numbers, whatever. So I did that, and not only did it work really well, he learned numbers, learned the alphabet counting very early for his age. But also I fleshed it out into my first commercial product, which was awesome. So I used a framework called Love2D. Love2D.org, I believe, is the website. It is a Lua scripting framework that is pretty bare bones. You can script your own 2D game, ship to PC very easily. And at that time, there were these community-supported projects where you could bring it into Xcode, bring it into Android Studio, and you could, with some trouble and with some effort, and some expertise and some trial and error, you get the vibe here. You could ship this on mobile. And believe it or not, old Toddy was one of the first people to ship a Love2D game on mobile. There were just a handful of us, I think. I was not able to find many people who had done this, but I liked the idea of letting go of Unity. Godot wasn't really, this was far back enough that Godot was out there, but people weren't using it the way they are now. So I went, hey, I'm a coder. This is what I do. I want to program. I want to be under the hood. I want to do this lightweight, sleek, elegant. It probably wasn't elegant if I look back at the code, but I wanted to do it my way, in short. So I did. I whipped up a game over the course of like 6 months, tested as well as I could. I spun up an LLC. I took all the steps you're supposed to take, and then I shipped it. I shipped my first mobile indie game and got my game developer wings finally. So it was cool. Like it was stressful at the time because everybody puts pressure on themselves when they're doing a project like this. I lost sleep. I wasn't reliable enough around the house. I've talked about that before. I've talked about how you've got to either keep up all parts of your life or you're not keeping up with anything. Just because you're getting your game done, if nobody can count on you to help watch the kid or help take out the trash. Like I did the important parts. My son is alive. My house did not burn down. But I didn't manage my time effectively enough because that's something I'm still learning, was definitely still learning it then. But I got through the process. I got to do some talks with teachers, parents. I visited some schools. I did some demos with kids and stuff. It was cool. And based on that was some clout that I took to start freelancing, and later got a pretty cool contracting job with not a full-on game studio, but certainly a VR and AR studio here in St. Louis, and I've worked with them off and on throughout the years now. So a lot of cool doors opened up. And I added that to my, obviously, LinkedIn, resume, all that stuff. I got some other jobs because of its sense. So I don't have any remorse about that. Also, we haven't talked about this on the pod, but that also, because I released a game in the Android store between X and Y dates, I was part of that I was not intentionally part, but by default, I was part of that class action lawsuit against the Google Play Store, I guess. And I took zero action. I didn't do anything. I didn't fill anything out. I didn't respond to anyone who tried to contact me. Nevertheless, they sent me a large check for that. I don't know if any of you guys listening got your Google Play class action lawsuit fund settlement check, but it was like, it greatly out-earned what I made from the Play Store from the game, like a lot more. So you can look into that. You can look it up. Maybe some of you know. And when I put this on Twitter, somebody reached out to me like, are you serious? You got a check? I said, I got a check. And if you follow my website, follow some of the stories I've told on the podcast, me and Google have not been on the best terms. Me with an axe to grind, right? Go figure. But seriously, like I was absolutely 100% incorrectly banned from the AdSense program. And if you know how I do all this, the content creation, the podcast, all that stuff, that has cost me probably a small fortune over the years. I can't participate in the AdSense program for life. So that's not only my website that can't do ads, I can't monetize on YouTube. And this is because of something someone else did. Like someone else clicked on too many ads on a site I was helping a friend with, but I had started the AdSense account under my name. Huge mistake. Someone outside my control went and clicked on ads. I told everybody on my team, don't touch these ads, don't do anything. And it wasn't someone on the team, but some other person went clickety, ad. I got banned for life. Me personally, and any account I create, any immediate family members, it's a comprehensive ban from Google. So to get a fat check from them felt good. Because the check they had to send me was worth more than the check that they pulled away those years ago when they went like, we decided your revenue should go back to its advertisers and you should go to hell. So score one for me. That felt good. Anyway, so I've done other things since then. I've moved on. I haven't done any more mobile games. I've done game jams. I've done contracting and freelance projects, as I said. I have not gone back to that well, but Love 2D stayed on my LinkedIn. Some of you will be able to connect some of the dots if you've looked into Balatro. Let me take you now to August 23rd, 2023, a year from yesterday, a year ago yesterday. I'm minding my business. Actually, I'm asleep. I was asleep in the wee hours. I'm looking at the timestamp. It was 9:07 a.m. That's not quite the wee hours, but I guess I was having a good night because I was still asleep. So I wake up to a message on LinkedIn. So what, right? We get a lot of stupid, pointless messages from LinkedIn, but this one was interesting. It said, and I won't say the person's name, but I will explain their role in a moment. They said, "Hey, Todd," and this person worked at the publisher known as PlayStack, who I had not heard of at that time. "Hey, Todd, we have a game build in Love 2D that we would like to port to consoles. Would you be interested in helping with the project? Thanks," and signed their name. Well, if you know about my history, I live in the Midwest in the United States, St. Louis area. There is no real game industry presence here to speak of. So when I grew up a game crazy kid, went to tech school, started applying to studios at literally like age 17, I think, was the first time I submitted something to one studio that was out in Fenton, Missouri. Pop Top Software, something like that. They ended up getting merged into Firaxis later. I did everything you shouldn't do. I sent really low quality assets I had made in 3D. Like, I forget what even the application was. It wasn't anything you'd use at a studio. I sent code samples from school, and I I did do a cover letter, and I write well. I wrote well then. But I'm sure I said some version of, I will take any job you have. And if they had offered me to be the janitor at Pop Top, I would have been sweeping them floors, buddy. Rightly, they did not respond to me. And that set the tone for the rest of my days trying to get in to game industry jobs. I, to this day, have never even been close. I've been semi-close here in St. Louis once or twice, but every time the job either lost the funding because it's rough here in the Midwest, or it was so inundated with candidates. Everybody here is just like everyone everywhere else. Everyone would love to work in the industry in any capacity. So here, more than 20 years later, I've never made it in. So if you're listening to this going, this guy's from the industry, I'm around the industry. I'm industry adjacent. But the rest of this story is how I shot to the top of the not industry and stayed on the outside. So that's all to say, my heart stopped when I read this. I went, oh my God, I think it's happening. Because this wasn't, we'd invite you to apply. This wasn't like, if you know Lua, you may enjoy submitting to this potential employer. Because I wouldn't have even wasted my time. I would think they won't want me. This person came to me and basically asked if I wanted the job. 9:07 a.m. that day. 9:08 a.m. Less than 60 seconds later, I reply, "Hi, person's name. Thanks for reaching out. How cool that you have a Love 2D project to work with. I know that's a bit less common, but I really enjoyed working with it in the past. I'm trying to sell myself. I did this fast. This is crazy. Consider me interested in learning more. Todd." So, less than a minute. I had replied and said, basically, I should have just replied, "I am in, period." Now, again, we don't know at this point. I don't know the publisher. We don't know the game. And so I sit and wait, and I wait, and I sit, and I don't hear anything back for the rest of the day. So at 10:18 a.m. on August 24th, a year ago today, I follow up. Because I'm a professional, and that's what you do. You send follow-ups. That's what my grandpa would have said, right? So I say, "Hi, person's name." Oh, and this was Gamescom time. So I said, "I'm sure things are busy due to Gamescom. Just wanted to add that I'm happy to chat here or at," and I left my email address, "if it's more convenient. Looking forward to hearing what your team is up to. Thanks, Todd." Now, does it really make any difference whether we talk on LinkedIn or move to email? Is that really more convenient? No, but you can't just go, "Answer me!" You have to do something else. "Hey, wanted to circle back." That's professionalism, I thought. And so I sat holding my breath for the rest of the 24th also. Now I didn't pull up the email. Long story short, I didn't hear anything back that day either. And I didn't hear anything in the days that followed, and I was so upset. Like 3, maybe 4 days later, I think, I emailed their studio. I tracked down an email for the studio itself, like jobs or info at whatever. And I just tried to lay out the scenario again because I thought it's also possible this isn't even real. Like this could be, I don't know what, a scam, an ad. I don't know, because I didn't know the publisher and I certainly didn't know the person, but she sent me a connection request and it looked legit. She appeared to be connected to the studio. So I emailed the studio and laid it all out again. "Hi, my name is Todd Mitchell. I was contacted by one of your, I said what appears to be one of your producers, but I wasn't able to reconnect, and I'm hoping to learn more about what you're doing and how I might be able to help. You sell it. You sell what you can do for them, right? Let me make your life easier. I heard you have a problem. I have the skill set. You found it. You searched for Love 2. I'm sure you searched for Love 2D in LinkedIn. And I probably came up first because again, I shipped a multi-platform mobile Love 2D game on day one. It hit both stores at once. And wasn't on PC at all. It was a strictly mobile game. You needed this. Now, they were porting to consoles, but they wanted somebody who had done some porting with Love 2D, and I'm sure that's how they found me. So I pitched it that way. I heard you have this problem. I would love to hear more and see how I can help your team. Thank you. Best wishes, yours in Christ," or whatever. I didn't say that, but I left it at that. And to this day, I never heard back from anyone there again, ever. So let's quickly recap the things that happened since that time, right? We hear Balatro announced. There were probably people following this in some early form on PC or Steam. Some demo was out on Steam, I think. I don't know the whole history of the game. So the demo got a bunch of attention. The first time I started to connect these dots, I was reading like a game developer article that said like this indie card game had just sold like 1 million copies in 2 days or something, whatever it was, but it sold 1 million copies in no time flat. And I went, oh, must be nice. What's going on here? And I saw the game was called Balatro, and I heard that it was by PlayStack, or it was published by PlayStack. And I went, Now, when I first heard from PlayStack, I looked at some of their games, obviously, because if they contacted me again, it'd be nice if I could go, "I'm familiar with your games and I like them." The problem for me was I got familiar with their games and I did like them. And I did like what looked like the way PlayStack operated. I thought this company looks cool. They have an Apple Arcade exclusive like City Builder. You heard me just last week talk about how I love City Builder games, strategy stuff. I started playing that on my phone. And then I was conflicted because it was like, it seems like these guys are going to leave me hanging and it's going to hurt. And they did. And I still liked some of their games. So, but I looked at this thing and heard that this Balatro game was by PlayStack. And I went, what a coincidence. Because I thought they had another, like, they had an adventure, like a point and click adventure game. I don't recall the name, but I looked at it. And it was a much more like, it was a very humble, like indie style game. And it did very well. It wasn't exactly my thing, so I didn't spend a lot of time on it. But I thought in my head, that must be the one. That must be the Love 2D game that they wanted me to work on. And I thought, it's probably not a huge loss because, I don't know, I wouldn't have been into that project, you know? And I wouldn't have expected that to do very well. It did do better than I thought, but then I went and looked up, I hit Google and did a search for Balatro, Love 2D. And guess what? It was abundantly clear at that point that was the one. And it should have been me. It was what I thought at the time, I thought. And I mean, literally, they were putting out articles about this game that were, it was like the Truman Show. I'm sitting here discovering this and I felt like the world must be watching me behind, you know, some hidden camera or something. I'm just looking at these headlines pop up like, indie game takes world by storm, and celebrities endorsing the game and stuff. And so, of course, like, it's the new thing that replaced oxygen that now keeps us alive is what Balatro became. And of course, every single thing that I saw was just Balatro for since that time, really. And every one, I just think back and I think like, I don't know why it wasn't me. I don't know why I didn't get to contribute to this or why they didn't answer me. I'm sure I didn't say anything wrong on LinkedIn or anything. I think I figured out who they hired instead just because it's a small team and you can see who did what in the credits and all that stuff. And if it's the guy it looked like, he's very experienced. I'm sure he's very good at his job, and they probably even made the right choice. Could I have helped that team? Hell yeah, I absolutely could. And let me say, I'm not rooting for this game to fail. Like, I think what this guy did was great, and I have tried the game, and I did show it to my wife, and I pulled up the credits, and I pointed in that little corner where the porting person was, and I said, "That's the one." What do you mean that's the one? That should have been me. And she goes, "Oh my God, you're playing the game?" I said, "Yeah." And she knows me so well. She goes, "Are you playing it because you want to? Or is this just making you upset?" And I said, "It's just making me upset." Which is true. I haven't been able to enjoy it. I'm the only person on Earth now. That's the worst part. I've probably loved the hell out of this game. I've worked on card game prototypes that I love. Like, I've got I did a version of like a loot dungeon solitaire game that I'm really proud of. And so this was right up my alley for a number of reasons. And even if I had never heard from them and just got to enjoy the game, that would have been nice. But everyone's favorite game is now taken from me. And also, they're at 2 million copies sold now. And I'm sure there were some sales target bonuses going out to that team, and we're trying to build a house right now, and that would have been nice. It would have been awesome. For all the things my family sees me try to do, get the podcast monetized, make a website profitable without AdSense, find some way to contribute financially. I would have loved to bring home a big fat win for my family after 22 years without ever making a substantial amount of money with these pursuits. My book did pretty well, sold a lot of copies. That's largely thanks to our friend David Craddock, who got me in on one of the book bundles, one of the story bundle things. A lot of you supported that. I appreciate that. But nothing has been like ad revenue from the podcast has done pretty well. It let me later invest in the FPS documentary through the studio. It's let me try some things. And eventually I pulled all the rest out and gave it to the family anyway while we were working on funding the house build. I would have loved to come back 20 years after I started trying to do something, to make some impact on the industry, and go, look at these articles. That was the team I worked with. And I like the creator. I think he's done good work, seems like a cool guy. I helped make somebody's dream a reality. That would have been amazing, I think, right? It would have been hard, I'm sure. Now, look at how the project is doing. Have you noticed lately anything that they've been talking about that still hasn't happened? Balatro on mobile still hasn't happened. At this point, they've been talking about it for a good number of months, I think. Months. There are clones of Balatro, at least on iOS. I'm sure it's true on Google Play also, soaking up the money, soaking up that revenue, and leaving customers probably disappointed. That's not good. So again, you think I couldn't have helped that team? You think it wasn't worth responding to me? Asking me what my, expertise was or what I might be able to do for you guys? Like, I'm trying not to be bitter, but like, just to treat me like a human being and go, hey, thank you so much for your interest. Our first pick actually got back to us just now. I would have been fine with that. I would have been upset. I would have been disappointed, but I would have been respectful and thankful and appreciative, and I would have been able to enjoy the game. But this was like, this wasn't just no. This was like, you're not worth saying another word to. Why? I don't know. But sure enough, this turned out to be the lead producer for Balatro and really by extension, the whole studio decided that I just wasn't worth saying one more word to when their top pick came and went, yeah, I can work on this. If they came back to me now, would I do it? Probably not. Because I believe you have to demand a certain amount of respect, no matter what. So, needless to say, I'm sorry that they still haven't gotten on mobile, and somebody out there is working with the weight of the world on their shoulders. People, famous, well-known people tweet every couple of days about where is Balatro on mobile. People talk about it like it's Jesus coming back. Somebody out there is doing the job I could have been assigned to. I'm sure that person's not sleeping well at night. I'm sure they're not as happy as I am. So over the course of the last year, I have had to accept that, one, I avoided more stress by not getting the job. It's been a little stressful not getting the job, but it would have been a lot more stressful to get the job and to still have everybody on the hook, myself on the hook, and impact this person's run of a lifetime. This developer may never have another run like this. I hope he does. I hope everybody on the team does. But you know how this stuff goes. This is lightning in a bottle that then got smashed by more lightning, and lightning is just continuously hitting that spot on the ground. Nothing like this ever happens. And somebody's holding it up right now. Do you know how much this game would make on mobile? I'm sure it'd be the top earner. It'd be the top storefront. No, don't you think? This isn't Borderlands. This is a card game that belongs on phones. No question. My game was on mobile on day one. Love 2D. I'm sure it was harder back then than it is now. I know how it works. I don't know. I'm sure there are complications I don't understand. But so, that's all to say that during this time, I've had a lot of time to think about this. And I have chosen to focus at this point on all the things I did get to do during the last year. Been a lot of really great stuff, and a lot of it doesn't involve games. I've been a reliable parent, a better spouse. I've been personally more organized because I didn't have something obliterating every moment of spare thought I could spend on trying to get this record-setting game of a lifetime. Like, it wasn't hanging on my individual shoulders. That's probably good, right? Yes, it would be awesome on the resume. The other thing I've decided is, would I be happy strictly because my name was up in the little corner of that window, that credits screen? You probably even looked at it. Would I be happy if that was my name instead of the other guys? I've decided I'm not sure. Because, again, this would be stress to the point that you'd be crying and sweating blood, probably. And I don't know that this publisher operates that way. It seems like they must not, because they've kept the team small, and it seems like this mobile release keeps getting pushed out. So I'm glad. If they're not crunching, I'm glad. Great. To hear the lead developer talk about it, it sounds like he's still mostly doing it his way. Great. But I personally would, I'm kind of old school, and I would put that pressure on myself. I'm sure to some extent he does too, whether we're all hearing about it or not. Everybody stresses when you've got something like this going on, but I had to ask myself, is that what it would take to make me deeply, perfectly fulfilled with this part of my life? I don't think so. Would I learn anything new? Maybe. Everybody's responsibilities are probably pretty walled off. I don't know that it would definitely be fully remote. They are in the UK, I believe. I would for sure be working here, out of this office, out at the kitchen table. You know how it goes. And so, would it be a big team building exercise? I'm guessing no. And would it be that fulfilling to pour everything under all that pressure into somebody else's dream? I think I've come up with no. And that's a surprise to me because on the podcast, I have occasionally said like, yeah, indie till I die, it's me solo forever. And it probably is. But in my heart and in my mind, I was ready to betray that on a moment's notice. I've applied to jobs for Ubisoft. I've applied whoever I thought might take me. I've tried it all. And it's never quite panned out my way. But if somebody gave me a chance and went like, cast all that indie nonsense aside and come to the big show, I would have gone to the big show. I'll admit that. I was ready. Because my loyalty is to my family, to myself, to our future, the future of my child, and me making cutesy, artsy-fartsy stuff on the weekends ain't getting it done. So if I had a chance to take a real run at it, I was gonna. And I don't think a lot of you would have faulted me for it, because I think a lot of you would have too. Some of you are lifers. My friend Michael Hicks comes to mind, who was in the book, who has been on the podcast, who could have probably worked at Rockstar by now. According to him, he said he had friends there who talked about, come work with us. No, that's not how I want to do it. I respect the hell out of that. And you know what? I think I've grown up enough at this point that I think that's where I am too. I don't think I want to give up. I'm not saying working for this small publisher is giving up your soul. This small publisher didn't treat me like a human being. I can tell you that. And I've also caught their CEO since then giving interviews talking about how developers need to be very careful with the publisher they pick and make sure you feel respected. Y'all didn't respect me. Nobody respected me at this company. It wasn't just this person. Anybody who had access to like the info or the jobs email account. Anybody who saw me on Twitter talking about like, unfortunately, I had a pretty bad experience with this company. Nobody said a word. So I hope nobody's being mistreated there. I'm not suggesting they are. I have no evidence to the contrary. But I think I have to protect my time, my mental health. And I think this was, if not a bullet dodged, maybe a big mud puddle dodged, Something didn't slow me down, dirty me down, burn me out, I've gotten comfortable with what's happened. It probably took this full year. The last thing that happened was I tweeted, I said, do you guys think, which of the two things do you think will happen first? Balatro finally drops on mobile, or the anniversary of the day this happened, when they contacted me at 9:07 and ghosted me forever at 9:08 a.m. And guess what? The anniversary got here. Balatro still ain't on mobile. They're talking about updates to the main game in 2025. Think of all the revenue lost this year on mobile. I would not sleep. It's hard for me to sleep secondhand for them. I would hate that situation. And Could I help them fix it tomorrow? I don't know. I don't know what the holdup is. Because I did this. That game's more complicated than mine, no doubt. Not that much. Not technology different. It's the same stuff. And it's more mature now than when I did it. I don't know. That's the Balatro story. And I chose on the anniversary of that event to share it on the podcast, I think for the first time. I may have hinted at it recently, but that's the whole story. Now here's what I'll say to you. I'm not going to mention this again. I'm done talking about this. And so I will challenge you, if you catch me on social media or the podcast talking about this again, I invite you, find me on social, tell me these words: shut the hell up about Balatro. Really. And I will say back to you, thank you for listening. And that'll be the end of the conversation. That'll be our little game. And because you listened to me today, I invite you, find me on social when this drops and tell me, shut the hell up about Balatro. And I will tell you, thank you for listening. And I tell you now, thank you for listening. Craziest story of my run in games, next to games, parallel to games so far. Will it be the last one? I bet not. And it probably won't be the last one for you. You'll have stories just as bad or worse. And you know what? You'll have stories that are better. And I have stories that are better because I didn't let this sink me. I'm working on my own stuff. Real excited to talk about it. I'm thinking about an episode about like my workflow right now because I'm kind of revisiting Love 2D. So if it does that for me, maybe it was all meant to be. So more very soon. This went longer than I wanted to already. Catch me and keep me honest on this, everybody. For real. And I will be back very soon with something completely different, something upbeat, something happy, and we'll take it from there. If you enjoy Game Dev Breakdown, check out CodeWritePlay.com. I write articles, I share resources, links to cool stuff, anything I can think of that y'all might benefit from or enjoy. Doing new stuff all the time. I'm on Twitter at Mechatodzilla, 1D, 2 L's. GameDevPod is the Twitter for the show. I just started an Instagram again, CodeWritePlay, which is all public, and then I put my other stuff private so I can kind of separate family stuff from all this crazy stuff I'm trying to do. Catch me anywhere. I love talking to you all. That's the whole point, and that's what makes it worth doing. And as you've seen, I can't seem to stop. I try all the time, and I can't stop doing this. So I'll catch you all soon. Thank you so much, and let's all shut the hell up about Balatro. You don't have to. You can keep playing it. Enjoy.